Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates, let's come back to our work. I give the floor to the Ambassador of the United States.
Express my appreciation to Algeria for strongly urging this last effort. And we have offered here our very best suggestion of what we could accept, which is the amendment to 5.7 as indicated, 5.8 language, and 5.9 would have to drop away completely. That is the best we can do, and that beyond that we can't go. But it's certainly worth hoping and trying to get agreement of all states parties to that, because it does, I think, build in the encouragement of the timely commencement of destruction activities at all CWDFs. So that's non-discriminatory, and it implies anything that's built or going to be built. And not just for us, but for all states parties that have facilities that will be built. And then the next paragraph calls upon possessor states parties to continue reporting. So there's no implication that they have not been, but they are being called upon to continue. So there should be no question about that, and it's appropriate in this chapeau, which talks about progress that has been made. 5.9, for the reasons I've explained, is unacceptable. We can't take any part of it, and if it drops away, we can take 5.7, 5.8 as presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Is it agreeable for the Council, the proposed text? Iran, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Madam Chairperson, from the beginning of discussion on this matter, in the mood of compromise, we accepted to delete the last sentence, to bring this in the chapeau, to change the wording of this, two sentences. Now, we do not have any problem to have the second sentence as suggested by the U.S. In the first paragraph, 5.7, to come there. But regarding the content of this sentence, by this modification that distinguished Ambassador of the United States said, the essence of the suggestion, which is the significance of the timely commencement of destruction activities in chemical weapon destruction facilities wherever are planned, is missed. This is the point. If we do not have it here, it means we have nothing. And so we should accommodate this concern. My understanding from the suggestion which Ambassador Javits made in having more time was that we are going to have discussion in a small gathering and bring something finalized to you, not to again discuss the matter here from the floor. However, we can continue on that. We can just bring the last sentence at the end of paragraph 5.7, and if this is the desire of EC to drop 5.9, okay, finally maybe we can go along with that, but if it would not move there, we have to have these two sentences as 5.9.
Thank you. Iran? The United States of America, please, Ambassador.
It seems to me that the concept of the timely commencement of destruction activities at all CWDFs being put up in 5.7, where it talks about the obligations of the possessor states, is much stronger there. And the first sentence of 5.9 is better expressed in 5.8. So there's I don't see there's any virtue in trying to keep 5.9, nor in moving the second sentence of 5.9 in lieu of what we've offered in 5.7 as an addition. And I really ask my colleagues from Iran to consider carefully the difference between their second sentence and the language that I've offered. Virtually nothing is different except the idea of the significance. And the significance has nothing to do with what we're talking about, because it's basically the timely commencement. So I really urge them to give it another thought and to come along on this. And if they find it difficult, I would hope that other states parties could say whether they agree with me or not, because I see it that way, and it meets my instructions, and I can do it. Otherwise, I can't.
Thank you, Ambassador. Iran.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Madam Chairperson, the word of significance, this wording has been gotten from the report of Director General to the REFCON. This is a quotation. This is the significance of the timely commencement, timely operationalization of the destruction activities has been gotten from there. It is not a new idea. So this is why we suggested that.
Thank you. Mr. Director General, please.
Since I have been alluded, I feel that I should make a short statement. Indeed, I have said something like that. But it must be recalled that the Council itself and the Review Conference have taken up concepts similar to that, but not in the context of the reports of member states or possessor states, but rather in the context of the visits to possessor states, because that is the context within which concerns about timely commissioning, completion of a task, pace of extraction is appropriately dealt with. If you look at the decision of the conference calling for the visits, all these issues belong there, but not in the context of reports. The reports are produced by member states. Maximum thing we can do is note them, and as I said, if there are concerns, they are to be addressed in the context of the visits. The next visit to the United States will take place in June. And I think that that will be certainly one occasion within which issues like this, I'm sure, will be raised by member states. Indeed, if you look at the report produced by the recent visit to the Russian Federation, there is a mention of this sort, but it's in the context of the visits. It's not in the context of the reports, which are to be produced in accordance with the verification annex, and that's the way they are being produced. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Director General. Iran, you have the floor.
I should thank Director General for the explanation and clarification he provided to us. As I understand, the reports on visits are the basis for, of course, we can get idea from those reports, from the wordings regarding the visits, from the reports of the Director General, which has been taken note by the organization, by the REFCON, and by the conference. So this is why I said this is not a new idea. It has already been there, and I don't know why should we be concerned regarding having such a wording here. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Director General, please.
Well, it's just a question whether you want to address issues within the context which have been planned by the conference or whether you want to raise these issues all over the place. I would suggest that in the context of the report of the visit to Aniston, as well as in the context of the report of the visit to Suche, these issues have been addressed, the reports have been noted, and that's where it stands. If we begin, I suggest, to bring every issue and every concept in the context of every item of the agenda, we run the risk of being, as we are today, 10 minutes short of not having any more interpretation, very late in the day, discussing issues out of context. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Director General. Thank you. We have only 15 minutes. Iran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Of course, I don't want to prolong discussion on this matter at this time. However, I should say that for highlighting some important issues, we repeat it in different documents. You know, it is not the case of this matter. It is the case of many other matters also. But since Ambassador Javits has a strong view on significance, we can change it to importance. And importance of the timely commencement. No, from the I'm making a modification in the second sentence of our suggestion. We haven't. Yeah. Time instead of the Council reiterated the importance of the timely commencement. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Cuba, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. This may be a worthless proposal, but as I see that we have changed the concept of importance, maybe we could try to shift this short idea to the paragraph 5.7 and say that and underlined the importance of the timely commencement of destruction activities of all CWDFs, and then simply drop the last sentence of the para 5.9. I think by doing this we're simplifying and we're taking into account both proposals, the USA proposal and the Iranian proposal, which is an idea that certainly is worth being taken into account. Thank you.
Thank you. The United States?
I was not going to comment on this because I hadn't heard it. What I was going to say was that I think our language as it originally stood is much stronger than what is being asked by Iran, because all they're doing is reiterating something, and we're talking about the importance of action.
Thank you, Ambassador. Cuba.
If reiterate is more acceptable, then reiterate. It's just a question of interpretation. Sorry.
Thank you. Now we have new text. The United States.
We've already gone way beyond the red lines of our instructions. I can't accept anything except what I suggested in the first place. So it's nice to hear all these efforts to find middle ground, but the ground has been found, as far as I'm concerned, that we can accept. And we have to decide up or down, I think. So it's late. The idea of the timely commencement is one which we're willing to acknowledge. We're not willing to go into the wording that is being offered with underlined. I would just say that if it's enough, we should do it. If it's not enough, we can't.
Thank you, Ambassador. In light of this statement of the Ambassador of the United States, can I urge Iran to accept the proposal as a compromise? Iran, you have the floor.
Madam Chairperson, I'm wondering how the importance can be encouraged. It doesn't make sense in my view, and I'm not the native language, and encourage the importance of the timely commencement, it doesn't make sense.
Thank you, Ambassador of the United States.
The timely commencement. Encourage the timely commencement.
Is it acceptable for Iran? Iran, you have the floor.
Madam Chairperson, I know this is the late night, but really we are talking about our commitments, our undertakings. We are not, we intend to, bother the people in this room. We have shown utmost flexibility on this matter. I think we should see the flexibility from the other side, you know. So, and I'm wondering how can we accommodate this, because in our view, having this phrase here or not having this, it does not make, a difference for us. It means we are wasting our time. And if we are going to just focus on having something like this here, if there is a willing to have a wording, I'm ready to, work on one sentence to be reflected there. But this idea has to be, has to be introduced in that sentence. But nothing is there, frankly speaking, Madam Ambassador.
Thank you. Ambassador of the United States.
I strongly suggest that we know what our obligations are. We don't need to have them reiterated or underlined, nor do I think the other possessor states need that. What we need is encouragement for the timely commencement of destruction activities at all CWDFs. It's not discriminatory, and that language is much stronger than Iran's language because it's up there with the reaffirmation of the obligation of possessor states to destroy their chemical weapons within the extended deadlines in accordance with the relevant decisions of the Conference of the States Parties at its 11th session, and encourage the timely commencement. It goes right on. It flows right into that. And it flows from a stronger position than what they've got down there, which only talks about giving the 90-day reports and complying with the verification annex. And the difference between their language about reiterating the importance is certainly not as strong as encouraging the timely commencement. That is actually an action plea or encouragement, whereas the other is just a reiteration of some importance. So frankly, I think we've given them something stronger than they've got, and they really ought to think about, haven't we come more than the 50%? I just suggest to them strongly that is not only past my guidance, and I'm willing to do that in the spirit of accommodation, but really ought to satisfy them. And then they can get the report of the visits to Pueblo next year. And I'm sure the delegation is going to ask all the appropriate questions. And we're going to give them all the information we have and be as transparent as possible. So I hope we can, at 10 minutes of 11, close this out and get this report noted and go on and do our business. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Iran.
I'm very happy to see that at this very late hour, distinguished colleague is still laughing. It is very good. And it seems that we have done our best to find a compromise solution. But as I see that there is no any indication from the other side that they want to agree on something. So if it is the case, let's forget about this note and then come back in the next session, as we did. We have not been able to take note of this report. Let's see that what are we going to do with that report. That's a simple question. So do not take the whole report as a hostage. This is our proposal. Let's forget about this national paper and then come back to the whole report, adopt it, and then go to the next session. Thank you.
Is this proposal to defer it until next session or meeting acceptable for the Council? No. Ambassador of the United States.
Will not do that.
I strongly urge the relevant parties to find the final solution, and without using strong language, of course, because we like to work in the spirit of the cooperation and pragmatism. And we need it more than before at this moment. Costa Rica, Ambassador.
Gracias, señora presidenta.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask if we could put this off till the next session, and then we wouldn't be in a position where we're 5 minutes are left to us in the middle of a Friday night. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Ambassador of the United States.
I've been here next month 6 years. I think I've proved in 6 years that I really do value consensus and consideration and tolerance of my colleagues' views and respect for their positions. And I have great sympathy for Iran's position and the instructions that I feel they probably have. I have the same position. I'm in the same predicament. I cannot go further than I've gone. We cannot accept anything except our report being noted like all the other reports. And if we were to do that, we are allowing ourselves to be discriminated against, and it is out of the question. So as far as showing flexibility, after Algeria asked, wouldn't we, take one more shot at it? Not only did we take a shot at it, we've gone a lot further. And I think we've come closer to what Iran wants than Iran, frankly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. I have just received the indication that we are ready to consider the proposed text, paragraph 5.7, and it seems that we have a compromise language. It means to put the word emphasized instead of encouraged. Is it agreeable, Ambassador of the United States? Please.
If this is your suggestion, that we accept and to that end emphasized, instead of the word encouraged.
Yeah, and to that end.
And if you ask us both if that is acceptable, I will respond.
It is to that end, yes.
So I will read the text, and to the end, And to that end, emphasized instead encouraged. Now we see the text. Now, can I ask you if the Council is ready to accept this wording? Ambassador of the United States.
I would be glad to join my distinguished friends from Iran. If they are willing to accept it, we will accept it. And I say this at my last Executive Council at 11:40 in the hopes that this will do it for all of us and we can go home and have a nice weekend. And my gratitude to all of us for the efforts that we've made, and hopefully this will do it and we will succeed, at least to get everything done except the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Now I give the floor to Iran.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Thanks to the patience all members of the Executive Council have shown, and thanks to Ambassador Javits for his cooperation. We also, in the mood of compromise and not keeping the people more awaited here, we accept this proposal. Thank you.
It works. Don't touch.
Thank you very much. Now, Now, can we now adopt the paragraph 5.7 and 5.8 as a package? 5.9 will be deleted, of course. Is it agreeable for the Council? I see no objection. It is so. You want? It is so approved.
5.9 disappears.
5.9 disappears.
Yeah. Iran.
Madam Ambassador, our understanding was that 5.8 and 5.9, both of them would be deleted, and just we have that phrase at the end of 5.7, because 5.8 is already there in the convention, and it is, in our view, it is not needed to be mentioned here again.
So can we delete 5.8?
Are you ready to delete both paragraphs, 5.8 as well as 5.9? I see no objection. Now it is approved.
Okay. So.
Now we move to the paragraph 5.12. Is the Council ready to approve the paragraph 5.12?
Nina, could you show, please, paragraph 5?
No, it's hiding. Well, let's say, yeah.
Jocelyn, 5.12 from the...
ready to note?
No, to approve the paragraph.
To approve the paragraph, yeah. I see no objection. It is so approved. Ladies and gentlemen, let's come back to our work. We start with paragraph 5.11 of the annotated provisional agenda, that is a national paper by the United States of America. Where do we stand? The ambassador of the United States? No?
Yeah.
Ambassador, please, you have the floor.
We have indicated our willingness to meet with the other possessor states and with Iran to consider Iran's proposal. We unfortunately were told that some of the other states were not interested in joining in that meeting, so we've suggested to Iran that they could put up on the board the language that they wanted, and we would then address it, because then all states parties that would be affected by that would be present. So, because we didn't want to be in negotiations on something that could affect the interests of other states parties without their presence. So I'm happy for our colleagues from Iran to propose what they've got to offer. And then I would like to be called upon.
Thank you, Ambassador. May I ask Iran to propose
Get rid of this.
the text? Iran, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Our suggestion was to bring one paragraph under the agenda item 5.8. I'm sorry, 5.12. Yeah. Yes, I can read it if you allow me. Yeah, I read it in the dictation speed. The Executive Council underlined the undertakings of all possessor states, parties, to provide detailed information on destruction of their chemical weapons in accordance with Part 4A of the Verification Annex. Full stop. The Executive Council reiterated the significance of the timely operationalization of the destruction facilities by possessor states to meet the final extended deadline of the convention. To this effect, the Executive Council requested the United States to provide detailed information on new chemical weapons destruction facilities, including the start timeline of those facilities. Madam Chairperson, it was the original suggestion which we made to be reflected under the paragraph on the report of the United States. However, we are flexible on having this paragraph here or a modified paragraph somewhere else which would be acceptable to them and other interested delegations. Thank you.
Thank you, Iran. May I? United States. Yeah, Ambassador, please.
I want to thank my colleagues from Iran for providing this information, which is what they would like to have. Unfortunately, we have very strict instructions in terms of what we can accept. We cannot accept anything that applies to us and not to others, and this language does. And we appreciate the fact that the first sentence talks about all possessor states parties, and we think that that is appropriate. We do not think that the significance of the timely operationalization of the destruction facilities is the right type of language, because we can always talk about the significance, but what we think should be happening here is that the language, whatever it is, should go into the chapeau, which applies to everybody and is not basically directed to the United States. And we could accept language which encouraged the timely construction of the destruction facilities required for this purpose, in other words, for the purpose of meeting the extended deadlines. So I will await the comments of the others, but I know what I can accept and not accept, and I'm certainly willing to try to give us all the language that we ought to have, which is making it clear that the construction of destruction facilities should be done in a timely way. And we're saying encourage the timely construction of the destruction facilities required for the purpose of meeting the extended deadlines. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Costa Rica, Ambassador, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I've taken the floor simply to say that we could not agree to the last sentence. We were talking about possessor states, and then here one of them is singled out. I don't think that this is appropriate. It's something that isn't appropriate in this context. We are not here to engage in finger pointing against any specific party. We are all equally responsible to comply with the convention, and not any of us stands alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Any other comments? Sweden, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, I'm sorry. As I said in my previous intervention, we are not willing to have one possessor state singled out. I think it's important that we treat all the same. I think that if we should have any extra text on the reporting requirement, because what we're discussing here is the 90 days report, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact. We did also get an excellent explanation by the legal advisor of the character of the obligation contained in the verification annex. And in light of this, I think that the text which is now on the screen goes a bit further than that. And I would rather suggest that we move the reference to the verification annex to the chapeau and not have one specifically here in 5.13. And perhaps if you could just scroll the text up to the chapeau. Between 5.7 and 5.8, you could add a new paragraph. And this is a not long text, and I will read it very slowly. The Council called upon states parties, or possessor state parties perhaps, to continue reporting to the Executive Council on their destruction activity every 90 days, comma, in accordance with paragraph 28, comma, part with capital P, 4, and in colons a capital A, of capital A, of the verification annex, full stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sweden. Any other comments? The United States made an alternative proposal. Can we have it on screen, on the screen? The United States Ambassador, you have the floor.
Obviously, this seems more reasonable to us to put it up here and to have this particular language in terms of directing the request to what we're dealing with, which is the 90-day report. We are reluctant to have a diversion into what is being requested by Iran. We're willing to make a concession if the other possessor states feel that that is something they want to see happen. I think that we are going down a road which is a divergent road from what we're supposed to be concentrating on here, which is noting a 90-day report. And we basically don't resist the idea of encouraging, because we feel the obligation to complete on time. But by the same token, talking about the significance of timely authorization is out of the question. And their final sentence also that they requested seems inappropriate to me. So there's very little of what they've offered that I could take.
Thank you, Ambassador. The United Kingdom, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A restatement of the obligations of all possessor states does seem acceptable to us, but in our view there's absolutely no justification for singling out one possessor state. It therefore follows that we would be content with the formulation proposed by Sweden, but we wouldn't be content with the proposal as formulated by Iran. Thank you.
Thank you. Iran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Madam Chairperson, it is clear that the original suggestion we made on this matter is due because of the concern that we have on meeting the last and final extended deadline of the convention. In terms of, as far as the report of the one possessor state is concerned, we are approaching 2009, and we are taking note of their report regarding the, the destruction activities. So, you know very well, better than me, than having taken note of these reports means we are, we have been informed of the situation, and we think that this pace of destruction goes to meet the final deadline. This is the legitimate concern that we have. And on the matter of, on this question that we here are discussing the issue of 90 days report, you know that we have the first paragraph here, which is generally applies to all possessor states, and it asks them to, it reaffirms the obligation of possessor states party to destroy their chemical weapons within the extended deadlines. It has a forward-looking, it is a forward-looking approach, not just backward-looking approach. If this is the desire of all possessor states, including the United States, to have something in the chapeau, we can accept that. We do not go to have specifically something on their under the report of the US. But something which our distinguished colleague from Sweden suggested, it is already there in the convention. We are not adding here by bringing this in this decision. We would like, the core issue is the timely operationalization of the, in our view, new destruction facilities. If this is resistant, we can drop the new and say destruction facilities. So this suggestion was in this line and is to cover this concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Iran. The United States Ambassador, you have the floor.
I would suggest that Sweden's offer applies only to the states parties that have extended deadlines. First of all, perhaps that should be clarified. Secondly, in the paragraph 5.7, we start out with the strongest language, which is reaffirm the obligation of possessor states to destroy their chemical weapons within the extended deadlines, in accordance with the relevant decisions. How much more do you need? Because if you start talking about the significance of operationalization of facilities, you are going down a slippery slope toward anticipatory breach before 2012, because the question of when it starts suddenly becomes significant, and the argument about how much time it takes to finish and when it's going to start. We shouldn't be getting into those details. That's getting into the weeds, and it's forward-looking, and it has nothing to do with 90-day reports. And that's why I have strict instructions. My strict instructions are, we don't mind being called upon to live up to the obligations of the Convention, but not to be caught in snares and traps of language, where we can have judgment before the time is due as to how we have performed.
Thank you, Ambassador. Any other comments? Iran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Really, in our view, having a general wording, if, as I said, and finally, if there would be a wording in the chapeau regarding the timely operationalization of new destruction facilities, is not an anticipatory breach by any state parties. There is no any accusation by having such a wording here. Just we want to send this message to possessor states that it is important for the EC to see this information to be included in their reports, to provide this assurance for them that when we are taking note these reports, we see a light at the end of tunnel, that later on we are sure that with this pace of destruction, with these activities, they can meet the final destruction. There is no any accusation in our view, in our understanding. There is no any anticipatory breach. Thank you.
Thank you, Iran. Ambassador of Germany, please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Just to add my voice to what has been expressed by the US, Sweden, and the United Kingdom, and Costa Rica also. The Swedish proposal would be acceptable, I think, but not the additional wording by the Iranian delegation. I hate to repeat myself, but the legal advisor made it very clear to us that this is not the place. It's a retroactive factual report. This is not the place to put this language in. So, as I said, I can also not support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. The United States. Ambassador, please.
We are very interested in what other possessor states have to say about this. I would just remind all of us that the caption, sub-item 5C, reads, progress made in meeting revised deadlines for the destruction of chemical weapons. And progress implies what has happened in the past. Progress of the last 90 days, we feel we are meeting that obligation punctually and properly and fully, and we will continue to do so. And being urged to, in 5.7, destroy chemical weapons within the extended deadlines in accordance with, we don't mind reaffirming and having reaffirmed that obligation, nor do we mind in 5.8 being called upon to continue reporting on destruction activity every 90 days. As far as the desire for Iran to have further information, we will furnish it. We have promised to furnish it, and we have proven our devotion to transparency here, and we'll continue to do that as soon as we have reliable information. The idea of significance of the operation, I don't know how to say it, but anyway, operationalization permits the inferences to be drawn based on when something starts well ahead of a deadline, and allows conjecture in a forward-looking way about whether there's time to complete or there isn't time to complete, and that draws people into a discussion or a decision about compliance before the deadline is met, and it is unfair. We do not need to be distracted with that kind of a debate when the United States and other possessor states are bending every effort to get their stockpiles destroyed. We will live by the obligations of the Convention. We will live by all the provisions of the Convention. But we don't want language which later is something that will take us off on a side issue, a side debate in a premature way, which is, I think, unfair to one state party and basically discriminatory. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. France, Ambassador, you have the floor, please.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Well, thank you, Madam Chairperson. I get the impression that we're going around in circles in our discussion here, and so perhaps I could repeat myself then. We are looking at a 90-day report on the state of progress of destruction carried out by the United States. This report, again, focuses on things that have taken place over the last 90 days. It has no forward-looking purpose. It has no forward-looking content. That's not its purpose. We are being asked to merely take note of this document. That's what we should do. We also have to be even-handed in our manner, and we cannot accept drafting that would single out one single possessor state. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Iran, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. With all due regard to the views which has been expressed by legal advisor, I don't know what has been that, and maybe delegations have asked such a legal opinion from the Secretariat. I should say that the title of this part is Progress Made in Meeting Revised Deadlines. Revised deadlines are in future. These are not in the past. We would like to see what has been done to meet the future deadlines. So this is why we are concerned that the content of the reports should show us whether the possessor states are in right direction, or there might not be chance for meeting the deadline. So this is, in our view, this is the first point. The second point is that we have another paragraph, as I said, at the beginning of this section as a chapeau, which is a forward-looking, paragraph. Thank you.
Thank you, Iran. Russian Federation, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. You know, for the Russian Federation, what the Swedish delegation is acceptable for the very simple reason that we are dealing with the deadlines for our destruction of our chemical weapons. Thank you.
Federation. Iran, please, Iran.
Madam Chairperson, my suggestion was to have this one under the U.S. report. It was not my suggestion to bring it in the chapeau. If this is the suggestion of other possessor states or the U.S. to bring it in the chapeau, we can discuss that. We can discuss what can replace this paragraph in the chapeau. Thank you.
Thank you. Are other possessor states ready to discuss this proposal to complement to this to the chapeau? Ambassador of the United States, please.
Satisfied with Sweden's suggestion. We don't see the need for anything else.
Thank you. Is paragraph 5.8 acceptable to the Council? Iran, you have the floor.
No, Madam Chairperson, I'm so sorry to say that. We have shown utmost flexibility. We were ready from this morning to discuss the issue with the U.S. and other interested delegations. Nobody came to discuss this matter. We changed our proposals for several times. We even accepted to drop most of our suggestions to have a very short wording wherever they accept. It seems there is no, any will to have something here. So I'm sorry we are not in a situation to accept this paragraph. Thank you. To note this report.
Thank you. Any other comments? We have a very limited time, and I have no option only to say and to put the question if there any support to the proposal made by Iran. Iran, you have the floor, please.
Madam Chairperson, this is not, I'm sorry to say this, but this is not the way to proceeding. And singling out one delegation regarding a point, on one issue, this is the legitimate concern. We decide here based on a consensus. So, as I said, it is the right of any delegation to raise its views on any agenda item, and as it has been the practice of this body up to now, in such a situation, we were witnessing that delegations come together in a small gathering, a small meeting, and finalize the wording which has been suggested. It is not the case now. We haven't seen this willing by other delegations. So this question that you raised means you, I should say, I don't advise having such a question in this August body. We are ready to work with other delegations to, as I said, to find a very, an acceptable solution for everybody, but we cannot go along with having this paragraph. Thank you. I'm sorry to note this report as it is without having any wording here. We are flexible to have something in the chapeau, which would be acceptable to all possessor states if they are willing to have something there. Otherwise, we need to have something under this paragraph. Thank you.
Thank you. The United States Ambassador, please.
In almost any instance, I would be ready to meet again, but I look at 5.14 that has been offered by Iran. And as far as I can see, the undertakings to provide the detailed information are covered by the Swedish proposal and are up where they belong, not down under this position. And the second sentence, I think I've explained why it's unacceptable, and my instructions forbid our taking something that could be basically looked at as future-oriented when we're talking about 90-day reports. And the final sentence is directed specifically at the United States, and as far as I'm concerned, is discriminatory. So there's nothing there at all that I can accept except that the first sentence, which is already embodied in the Swedish proposal. So I don't see where normally I could meet and think there's a chance for some constructive compromise. I really don't see the opportunity, and I regret that, because we've always tried to reach consensus in an amicable way, as difficult as it might have been, where there was an opportunity to close differences. This does not present that opportunity for the reasons I've explained. And so I feel the chapeau is so clear that it's looking backwards as on progress made, so clear that the Council is calling upon the states party, possessor states, to comply with all their obligations, and so clear that we're being asked to continue reporting on 90 days, that I feel that's everything that any reasonable state party should be looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Costa Rica, Ambassador, please.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Yo estoy totalmente de acuerdo.
Well, I fully agree with what was just said by the distinguished representative of Iran and what he said when he said we shouldn't be singling out any state. That I agree. And that's why I continue to say that the last sentence in this paragraph is totally unacceptable. But I also agree with what he said in his second to the last statement, when he said in English,
El informe
he said the report
done to meet the deadline en los últimos 90.
So what has been done in the last 90 days within the deadline. So that's what the delegate of Iran says, that he said that anything that's forward-looking should not be included in this report. It's out of place. And yet this paragraph that is proposed, 514, we see that kind of proposal.
Thank you, Ambassador. I see Algiers. You have the floor.
Madame la Présidente.
Madam Chairperson, my delegation has listened to the most recent exchanges we've had here. And we've heard the wisdom that's been expressed, even if there's still great divergence between the positions we've heard expressed. Having said that, my delegation is very keen to uphold the spirit and the character of the Executive Council, this August Assembly in which we find ourselves gathered. And it's because of this, and despite the tardy hour, that we remain optimistic. And we certainly hope that the pressure will perhaps dislodge people more and more as they need to move home, finish their business for the evening and go home, or to take care of their busy weekends. And having said that, Madam Chairperson, I don't think that we should waste any more time. I think that we should perhaps call for a recess, once again, a short recess, and once again appeal to those interested delegations to redouble their efforts so that we can indeed conclude this session of the Executive Council in a good spirit as we've been accustomed to doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's been a proposal to suspend for an hour and 15 minutes.
I'm going to suspend the meeting for 14 minutes, not more.
That's why I say the parties need to be consulted.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. In light of the discussions, we very much respect the fact that no single possessor state would like to be singled out in a reference which is to be a general one, albeit in this case we are looking at a national paper of a particular possessor state, but I think the spirit is to be respected. And in order to reach a consensus, could we propose deleting the last line of this 5.14 with the view to reaching a consensus if Iran would accept that? Because perhaps the second sentence meets the kind of substantive concerns that they may have without singling out and naming any or a possessor state party. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. The United States. Ambassador, please.
The deletion of the last sentence goes part of the way. The other problems that remain is that this is still in the U.S. section. It's still aimed at the United States. It's still aimed prospectively. It still doesn't deal with the caption, which is what's transpired, basically, what's been done, what progress has been made. And I don't think it's going to be useful to have a meeting, although I certainly respect my Algerian colleague's suggestion, unless all states parties that are possessor states that are affected by something like this are present and willing, and also unless the objections that I have expressed can be overcome in the mind of Iran. I am very sympathetic with them. They, I'm sure, have very strict instructions. And it's very difficult for them just as it's very difficult for us. If they were to say they have the flexibility to meet the comments that I've made, of course we'll meet. But that means that any reference goes up in the caption section, the chapeau section, and that the second sentence has to be basically one which does not look prospectively. So that would have to be something that talks about possibly not operationalization of facilities, but timely completion of the construction of a facility, because operationalization is something which basically is not in the control of those dedicated to getting the job done. If there are problems either with the environment, if there are legal problems, if there are problems of the safety affecting human beings, these are all factors that are mentioned in the convention. And we don't need to have conversations about when is it going to actually begin to go into operation on an industrial basis, because that is not something we can provide at this point in time. And then as days go on, if we haven't provided that by that time, all kinds of speculation about can you meet the deadline, can't you meet the deadline, we've been put in the corner enough here. I think that we've earned the right to at least go to the deadline and see if we can make it, because we've pledged to expend whatever money is necessary and any effort that is necessary to try to do it.
Thank you, Ambassador. Iran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I have to accommodate the concern that Distinguished Ambassador of Costa Rica said and the suggestion made by Distinguished Ambassador of India. We have no problem with deleting the last sentence. And I would like to suggest to have wording which would be which its pronunciation would be more simple, that this operationalization, we can say timely commencement of the destruction facilities. Yes, commencement of destruction activity. Thank you. Of destruction activities in those facilities. The significance of the timely commencement of destruction. Destruction facilities, no, destruction activities by in those facilities.
Thank you.
Timely commencement, because the core issue is timely commencement. Commencement of the destruction facilities by, destruction activities.
CWDFs.
Yes, instead of facilities, we can say CWDF.
Thank you. The United States Ambassador.
Certainly, we appreciate the efforts of our colleagues from Iran to try to accommodate, but as long as this stays in 514 and is not up in the chapeau, we can't accept the word of it. And I still object to the significance, reiterated the significance. Those words provide opportunity for speculation prospectively and is inappropriate.
Thank you, Ambassador. Iran, please.
I'm sorry, I haven't asked the floor at this stage. I don't know how. Maybe.
Can we move this paragraph to this chapeau? Iran. Can we move this paragraph to the chapeau? You have the floor, please. No, I put the question.
Yes, please.
Can we move this paragraph to the chapeau?
Of course, it depends on other possessor states. You know, this is not, for me, it doesn't make difference.
Does anybody object against moving it to the chapeau?
We can have it there.
Does anybody object to move this paragraph to the chapeau?
Nobody does. Let's move it. India.
If India, Ambassador, please.
Well, if the only choice, I think, for us to move forward and not go into further recesses is that we take this from here and move it to the chapeau, we can move it to the chapeau section and then we can look at the text once again.
Thank you. South Africa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And we would also think that maybe the moving up to the chapeau is a good idea. I think the principle that Ambassador of India and Ambassador of Costa Rica and others have previously stated, that we do not single out one possessor state, we can also go along with that. It's just a question now that the second sentence of that paragraph has been redrafted. It doesn't really make sense. We could have understood that it is important for facilities that are being constructed that they start as quickly as possible with the destruction. If you express that in a general sense, I think that goes for all possessor states, those that are busy. But currently now it says the Council reiterates the significance of timely commencement of destruction activities. It sounds like as if there are no activities ongoing, and actually there are activities. I thought the idea was mainly that we would encourage those possessor states parties that are currently busy constructing and that are putting in place facilities to have those facilities start operating as quickly as possible, because it is an important element of completing destruction. So the language, the way it reads now, doesn't really make sense to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Iran, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I think one part of my suggestion is missed here in this second sentence. It was significance of, I think Martinez is right, it doesn't make sense. The significance of the timely commencement of the destruction activities in the planned destruction, CWDFs in the CWDFs which are planned to be set up, which are planned to be set up. Yeah, it was. Yeah, the first plan should be deleted, should be removed from the screen. It is mentioned twice. Yeah. And now it makes sense now.
Thank you. Thank you, Iran. Does anybody want to react on the proposal made by Iran? India?
Madam Chairperson, we are moving in a spirit to reach a consensus which meets the concerns of the delegations which are most concerned in this matter. But as a possessor state, might I say that we have agreed to take it to the chapeau portion, so which would be applicable really to all possessor states. And but at the same time, we've heard the debate this evening. I think we have to recognize that while the commitments and responsibilities of all possessor states are absolutely the same, the status is different, the progress is different, and it also therefore, I think when we address this matter, I think we have to ensure that the exhortations that we are placing on the possessor states are really relevant and applicable where they ought to be applicable. So I'm not very comfortable with which are planned. For instance, we are not planning anything, I think. So it'll have to be something like wherever they are required or wherever they are planned. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Any other comments on proposals? Ambassador of the United States, please.
I think we can improve upon this, and I think we're starting to move in a direction where we possibly can find middle ground. I reiterate the fact that the 5.7 is a very strong statement about the obligations of possessor states to destroy within the extended deadlines. the next step, I think, is to talk about what the Swedish proposal was. And then perhaps we can go into some language which talks about timely commencement of destruction activities. But give us a little time. We're working on something, and then we'll come back to you.